Welcome to Lesson 4 in Unit 6, Seeds, Sprouts, and Sunshine. In this lesson, students will work to answer the question, what are the parts of a flower and what do they do? In the previous lesson, students explored three main parts of a plant: the roots, stems, and leaves. In this lesson, students explore the structure of a flower using models and readings. Students figure out that plants have different parts. Flowers form the fruit of a flowering plant, which contains the seeds for a new plant. Scientists make models, and these models are similar but different than the real objects they represent. This lesson will take approximately 3 days. In the engage portion of this lesson, ask students, we've been talking about what roots, stems, and leaves do, but what about a flower? What does a flower do for the plant? Chart student responses. In the Explore, gather different examples of flowers from outside or a florist, or give pairs of students silk flowers to investigate. Ask them to look closely at the various parts of the flower, trying to figure out what the flower might be for. Ask them to take a close-up look from all angles of the flower, count the petals, and notice the inside parts. At this point, you may need to tell students that the petals are the brightly colored or white parts of the flower. Show students the following video of a pumpkin growing. After viewing, ask students if their ideas about what a flower is has changed. Next, read and discuss From Blossom to Fruit, or The Vegetables We Eat. From Blossom to Fruit is very short and can be read as is. After reading, ask students to turn and talk to answer the question, how is an apple formed? They should respond that an apple is formed when a flower is formed, then falls off. The fruit with the seeds inside comes from the flower. Alternatively, read the remaining parts of The Vegetables We Eat. See Teacher page 11 for a read-aloud guide. In addition to defining the plant parts, students should also come to the conclusion that the word vegetable is a cooking or culinary term, not a scientific term. A vegetable may actually be a fruit, root, stem, or leaf. In the elaborate portion of this lesson, ask the class, can we make a model of a flower? What is a model? How do models help us? Guide students to understand that a model is a representation or copy of something, usually on a smaller scale. Models can help us understand how parts of an object work together. Models can help us describe or explain something to others. At this point, distribute 2 pipe cleaners, 2 pieces of tissue paper for petals, and 2 pony beads to represent pollen to each student. If you have time, you could have students cut the tissue paper circles into flower shapes. Ask students, scientists make models to represent objects in the universe. Do you think we can make a model of a flower? How could you use these materials to make a flower model? Allow students time to design a flower model. Refer to the tutorial for examples of pictures. Let them use the silk flowers and any real flowers you have brought in as examples, but keep the task open-ended to allow for student creativity. Make sure you keep their flowers as they will need them for the next lesson. Ask students, how does your flower model compare to a real flower? Allow students to turn and talk, then share out. Finally, use the flower drawing sheet on student page 13 for evaluation. Ask students, what does a flower do for a plant? How have our ideas changed? Allow students to revisit their chart paper answers and revise using a turn and talk. Revisit the bean plant video from Lesson 1. Ask students, what new information have we figured out that could help us think about this bean plant? What new questions do we have? Chart student responses. They should realize now that the bean plant will eventually form a flower. This flower will turn into a fruit. We didn't see the flower and fruit in the video because the plant wasn't old enough yet. By the end of this lesson, students explored the structure of a flower using models and readings. Students figured out that flowers have different parts. Flowers form the fruit of a flowering plant, which contains the seeds for a new plant. Scientists make models, and these models are similar but different than the real objects they represent. This lesson sets the foundation for the next lesson, where students will consider the role of animals in the pollination of flowers.